Hi, my name is Vivek. I've been in the tech industry for around about 10 years now. And I've been building something over the last 2 years that I'd like to take a moment and share with you all. So you have some context, this story begins in December 2021. And for those who don't remember, this was towards the tail end of the pandemic when everyone who had left the city came rushing back in. And I was trying to find an apartment to live in. I was competing with 20, 30 people at the same time to find a place to live. Offers were being leveraged against each other. Offers were being accepted and then minds were being changed and withdrawn. Estate agents were turning up 20, 30 minutes late. It, safe to say, was a bit of a nightmare. The worst experience, hands down, was I remember this one particular offer where it was accepted and the condition that it was accepted on was the property would be unfurnished and that a pet would be allowed. However, when the offer was accepted and all the referencing check had been done, I had found out that the tenancy agreement that was drawn up was around the landlord's terms of what they wanted the offer to be, not the offer that was submitted and supposedly accepted. It was then I realized, after a bit of talking with the estate agent, that they hadn't communicated my offer clearly to the landlord. Now, whether that was human error or whether they had deliberately done that, I don't know. What I did know is that I had to correct that mistake. A new tenancy agreement was drawn up, upon which I signed and transferred all the appropriate funds over, only to find out that the landlord was holding out on signing the agreement. And in the back of my mind, I was thinking, why? And it was almost a week left before I was meant to move in and pick up my keys. And I still hadn't heard back. And after some pressuring, the landlord suddenly pulled out the agreement. Whether the landlord was even aware of what my original offer was or not, I don't know. I don't actually blame the landlord. The fault, in my opinion, lies entirely on the estate agent. The bad communication, as well as having to chase up on what was going on constantly, as well as deliberately moving the line on terms of the offer that was agreed upon. I fundamentally arrived on the aspect that I had no way to hold any of these people accountable. Not only that, but throughout this entire process, I basically had no visibility. I constantly had to ask to get the most basic certainty throughout the entire process, not just the beginning of it. So I decided to do something about it. And after a lot of trial and error and a lot of conversations with tenants, landlords, as well as service staff users, I think I may have arrived on the answer. And that is what I'd like to share with you today. Now, I began this journey as a tenant, and I experienced and felt most of the pain points as a tenant. And something I identified very early on was, why the hell am I having to fill out a new referencing application every single time an offer is accepted? What I decided to do in the system is flip it. Now, when you're using F.estate, you fill out your referencing information first. Your right to rent checks, your income verification, all of that stuff is done in advance. Then you search for the properties that you want to apply to. Not only does this make sure all the parties have the information they need to reach an educated decision, but it also means you're saved on a lot of hassle once the offer is accepted. Because when you submit your offer and it is accepted, all you have to worry about is signing the tenancy agreement that has been automatically generated for you in a matter of seconds, transfer the deposit, and set up the direct debit. And you're good to go. We've taken something that takes weeks to accomplish and close to something that may take a few hours, if not an hour, if all the parties are actively involved. There's also the joint tenancy flow. As more people get involved in an agreement, the longer it takes and the more uncertainty arises on, hey, has that person filled this out yet? Have they transferred this? What are they left to do, etc. Since visibility is one of the core tenets of the platform, when you submit an offer and it is accepted, you'll be able to see all the things that all the stakeholders have left to do. So you know exactly who has yet to pay the deposit, sign the contract, set up the direct debit, whatever. So you know who to chase up. We're also involved after the lease has been signed and agreed upon and is in effect. Using our platform, you have one place to manage your entire lease. I'm talking about deposits, inspections, maintenance requests, all of it. For your deposit, you'll be able to see the certificate, who's responsible for it, and their contact details associated, as well as towards the end of the lease when deductions have to be made, all the deductions that have to be made. Each deduction is linked to an inspection item, something that occurs when an inspection is filled out. So everything is itemized and evidence. And if for whatever reason you need to challenge anything, all that information can be exported so that you have everything you need in your hand to escalate the process if required. If the landlord has agreed to do so, you have the ability to self-submit inspections, which means basically you just grab your phone, whip it out, and take a few photos and videos of whatever you need to take evidence of. This essentially means that you can skip someone coming around to your property and doing that for you. If, in the event that the landlord wants to do that themselves, they still have that ability. They just schedule a viewing from that inspection and do so accordingly. With maintenance requests, when things inevitably go wrong, you have a place where you can easily raise that. Just create a maintenance request and then see whether the landlord has seen it, acted on it. If they choose to deal with it themselves, you can see that. If they choose to create a job linked to that, you can also see that and liaise with the service staff user that's coming around to address it on your availability and when it's going to be addressed. When it is addressed, just resolve it. That's it. Using this, we encompass the entire life cycle of a tenancy, from start to finish. And essentially, because we close it all off, we can track the entire duration. At every journey intersection, we surface the ability for you to raise a rating and a review, to leave feedback, as well as to tell your side of the experience, positive or negative, ensuring that there is always a time for you to leave feedback, ensuring you never not feel heard. While I may have started this journey off as a tenant, I've had plenty of opportunity to speak to landlords around what they've experienced throughout this entire ordeal when it comes to estate agents, managing their lease, finding a tenant, all of that. And the common denominator that I tend to find has been the uncertainty around whether this tenant's going to pay on time, whether they're going to take care of the property as if they would their own, or you're going to be left with a bunch of damages that the deposit won't even touch. Or, probably worst case scenario, you're going to have to escalate down a legal arbitration route, which will incur tons of fees. I believe our platform does a good job at addressing a lot of these concerns and bringing you a bit of certainty that comes with that. While I could begin with and say that, hey, every profile is public in the sense of you can view their ratings and metrics. So you can see how often they've paid on time. You can see how often the lease has ended naturally versus, it's gone down the legal arbitration route. But what I'd like to more focus on is the little things that we take care of that make life easier for you in making an educated decision. Because we flipped the referencing, you no longer have to worry when accepting an offer whether that offer is going to go through or not. When accepting an offer, you're not going to have in the back of your mind, hey, should I have accepted that other offer? Because if this referencing falls through, I'm going to lose out there. Because all those offers are pre-qualified and you have the income verification and the right to rent done in advance, what you see is what you get. And when you accept an offer, all you have to do is sign the tenancy agreement that has been generated in seconds and pay the fee. Sorry, it had to come around eventually. We can't operate on a completely free model. Having said that, we only charge a fee when you're making money. On top of that, our fees are between 3 and 5%, while the entire industry tends to float an average between 10 and 15%, depending on the scope of responsibilities they are taking on. So you're not going to find a cheaper competitor in the market. Now, that's if you want to find a new tenant. What about if you've already got tenants? You can transfer them onto our system. Just simply fill out all the information you need and make sure the tenants are on the platform. And once it's been approved, your lease is automatically transferred. However you decided to arrive at this place, you are now managing a lease using F.estate. How do we make that life as easy as possible for you? Well, everything's centralized. So anything related to deposits and the compliance that you may need to fill out is all surfaced to you at the relevant moments. One of the things that estate agents do is account for the edge cases. What do I need to do when this happens? Well, we help you with that and we hold your hand throughout that entire process. So all you have to think about is filling out the information when required or pressing a button or two to fulfill certain actions. That's it. And when your tenant makes a maintenance request, you have that directly surfaced to you in the event that you want to create a job if you don't want to deal with it yourself. And that way you can get a service staff user to liaise with the tenant once you've accepted a bid, and they'll be able to figure it out amongst themselves. And once the issue is resolved and the invoice is raised, all you have to do is pay it. And then that's it. So most of the time, all you're having to do is press the occasional button here or there or fill out a form. And that can be done from the palm of your hand. If you're a tradesman or a cleaner, we want you on our platform. You are crucial when it comes to maintaining a property in general. When things go wrong, you're the people we call. When things need to be renovated, you're the people we call. When jobs are posted on our system, we'd like you to bid on them. And if your bid is accepted, you have a way to earn a bit of extra money for your business. Whether it's a one-off job or whether it's an ongoing one that's a bit more long-term, for example, a renovation, all you have to worry about is doing that job and then attaching the evidence of work done in your invoices. When you invoice through our system, we handle the payment processing as well as chasing up for late payments, as well as adding interest on those late payments. So all you have to worry about is doing what you do best. We've built a system that hopefully demonstrates the core principles and values around what we're trying to create here and the community that we're trying to build. But it's not done. For the tenant app, for example, if enough people buy in and like what we're trying to do, we want to create a space where you can find flatmates before you submit your offer. If you're in a fixed term tenancy and for whatever reason you need to leave and your landlord accepts it, we want to create a way that you can advertise someone taking over your lease and find someone to take over it for you. If you're a landlord, we want to create and leverage more data and analytics for you. Because we have visibility on that entire end-to-end process, we want to be making sure that you have as much information as possible and as many data points as possible when making key decisions throughout that process. For service staff users, while we may be starting off with just tradesmen and cleaners, that's nowhere near where we want to be finishing. For example, we want to be using and bringing on lawyers onto the platform as service staff users to help out when disputes inevitably occur or when things go wrong, so that landlords have, and tenants, I should say, have one place that they can deal with everything related to their home. As I speak, the app is live on iOS and Android and available to download. As I've spoken, if you're an individual that is of high trust and integrity and values like accountability and transparency and visibility resonate with yourself, then please do download the apps, as well as share it to like-minded friends that you may have that will benefit from this experience and the community and the vision that we're trying to build. It's been my honor to share this with you, and I thank you for listening.